marches of Martin Luther King, and he takes a moment and he teaches his disciples, and he gives them the word, the harvest. Look up and see the harvest. And you see Jesus, in Jesus, this integrated witness, revealing God, both to the disciples and to the Samaritans. Let's take some time to process that. So I'm going to just steal 10 minutes to get through this very briefly. These are very, very practical steps students can do, staff can do with the students. There's 3 key things if you want to help students focus in evangelism on your campus. So students, listen, because you don't need a staff to do this. You can do this with your own peers. Number 1, you need to identify missional Christians, people who are already around you, who already have a desire to reach their campus or to see a friend come to faith. Number 1, identify. Think right now about friends. Maybe they're here. Maybe they're back at home. Students in your fellowship that you would identify as people that already show signs of being a missional Christian. Who might that be? Some of the things to look for in identifying missional Christians, I've kind of adapted some of Chris Nichols' observations in his paper. Chris Nichols' students is his staff in New England. Just to let you know. Good guy. Number 1, there are students who are willing to and already spending time with non-Christian friends. But they're also willing to be open about their faith. So just because a student has a lot of non-Christian friends, they may not want to join you in thinking about how to reach your campus because they're not willing to put their friends on the line. And so maybe let them be. Don't push them, pressure them, but talk to them. Number 2, they love being involved in groups outside of Christian groups. They're willing to take initiative. They're kind of able to just do stuff. And they make bold mistakes, right? In trying to reach their campus, share their faith with their friends. I've known some of these people. For staff, they're the hardest for staff. Because they take initiative and they make bold mistakes in ways that we don't want them to do. They're rocking our boat. And so we want to just get them out of there, or we want to domesticate them. That's not good. Don't do that. Don't do that. Affirm their craziness and do like that kind of Steven Seagal thing. Like use that energy and let them kind of like just, use it for yourself. Don't like stand there and try to tackle them and say your evangelist style is not working. So when you get a really gnarly, intense gifted evangelist, like I've encountered, they may not have basic tools of relational etiquette. They may be kind of in your face. They may be a real super into Ray Comfort. Like I like Ray Comfort, but maybe they're so into Ray Comfort that it's all about the law and why they're sinners, and that's just the only grid they have, which is not a bad grid, but that's all they have. So don't get rid of them. See if you can get them to work with you. I had one of those students, Matt Krause, and by the end he was going through a book called Being White, learning about racial rec, and I was convincing him that, Matt, you're going to touch people as you are, you're a leader, but if you will learn how to cross cultural boundaries, you'll become a world changer. Because right now you can influence people in your own little circle that are just like you, but you don't really have much to offer people who are not like you. And he's all, whoa. So he's a lawyer now, he's been going overseas a lot and getting involved with helping other countries deal with some of their legal issues, like he was in Africa. Anyways, they're persistent, teachable. Maybe they're shy. They're not really bold, but they're teachable, and they're willing to do it. One of the shyest guys in my fellowship, Julian. I mean, he epitomizes. He's shyer than any of you, I promise you. And he was one of the first people to lead someone to faith. I just said, go out. I challenged him to go ask one friend into a gig. He just did it. He said, I'm just going to do it. Did it. Totally expected to know. His friend said yes. The first gig, his friend came to faith. What I saw is some of the most critical people in our growth in evangelism culture over the last 7-8 years have been people who are teachable and shy. They're willing to take risks, people who are willing to make mistakes and willing to be public about their faith. Okay. That's an example. Number 2, you need to gather them. You identify them. So write down some of their names. Right now, write down one name of a friend you think might fit this category. Sometimes it may be that they have a burden for a family member. Well, God will use that passion for their family member as a wedge to get their heart to care about more people than just their family. So maybe you have a friend who's burdened for their family. That could be a person. And you may need to help them see their family and say, man, God wants to give you a heart not just for your family, but for this campus. What if you could feel for your campus and for your roommates the way you feel for your family? That's Jesus. Okay, so now you want to gather them. Don't just identify and get them together. Listen to this quote. It all started by Jesus calling a few people to follow him. This revealed immediately the direction of his evangelistic strategy would take. His concern was not with programs. My challenge to you is if you're starting from scratch, don't try to start a program. Yeah. It will kill you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did that. God had grace on me and still blessed it. Thank God. It's not programs to reach the multitudes, but with men whom the multitudes would follow. Mm-hmm. Remarkable as it may seem, Jesus started to gather these people before he ever organized an evangelistic campaign or even preached a sermon in public. People were to be his method of winning the world to God.
Amen.
Yeah, that's right. That's Master Plan of Evangelism, Robert Coleman. That singular idea, people over method or projects or programs or methods, has been the central guiding kind of concept that has guided me over the last 8 years. It's about people. So let's gather these guys. How do we gather them? Like Jesus. We invite them to commit. We invite them. We help them see how God has given them some love for the lost. How God has called. We help them see what's already in them, right? You see it, so just ask yourself, why did you put them on your list? When you go back to campus, tell them why you put them on your list. I see something in you. You know what? And I feel it too. What if God has more for us and for our fellowship? So help them see what's in them and invite them to commit to a set period of time. Get practical. Let's commit for the next year, 6 months, semester, but get fanatical, get crazy, push yourself a little bit. And we're going to meet on a regular basis, and this is what we're about. When I formed our staff team and we gathered together, the one thing we were committed to doing, one thing. And it was not lead people to faith, surprisingly, although that happened. It was get into as many gigs as possible. That was it. Every week. Are you in gigs? No. How are you trying? Let's help this person. Okay, we're just strategizing. How many gigs this week? 2 gigs, 3 gigs. How's it going? What are you learning? What passage are you using? That's all that mattered. How many gigs are you doing? That's all we cared about. I mean, by God's grace, 28 people came to faith this year, and the staff were not the ones that led most of them to faith. But commit to something and set a goal. What are we gathering for? And hold each other accountable to that. So students, get some peers, commit together, and say, we're going to do this for the next year. And we're going to ask God to start, like a passion for the lost, renewal in our community. And we're going to ask God to just work through our humble efforts and mistakes and successes to inspire other people. Next, doing and learning together on a weekly basis if possible. Like New York staff, maybe you can't. So maybe you do it every month or every other week, but get fanatical. Push yourself. You're going to have to feel it burn a little bit. You're going to have to rinse your cottage cheese a little bit. I won't explain that, but you're going to have to if you're going to push yourself from a mile to 2 miles, you don't keep running a mile until it's easy. Do you know when a mile finally gets easy? Is when you're running 2 miles. Then the mile gets easy. Right? The next, 2 miles won't be easy until you're running 4 miles. And it actually gets kind of exponential in running. And then pretty soon it just leaps and bounds. So do something together, challenge yourselves, push yourselves, put some strain on your schedule until you realize what needs to go. So do it together, do something together. Don't just get together and talk. Do something. Scare yourselves. Do something that makes you all go, that's really scary, that's crazy. Do something that makes everyone in that group just laugh and giggle like that is some crazy stuff. I want to use profane terms, but I can't. That is what, something that makes you want to cuss.
G, Ryan, G.
Yeah, let's keep it G.
Rated G.
Things that make you scared. It could be, we're going to start a Bible study, and it's going to be the 3 of us, and for the next year, the only people that we're going to get to come to our Bible study are people we meet on campus. Only non-Christians. And for a whole year, we're going to find out what does it take to get people from our campus into a Bible study. That's the only people who are coming to this Bible study. If Christians want to come, they can come if they're committed to bringing non-Christians and just busting their